And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're taking a look at J'accuse, which is a name of just like J'accuse. This is a game from Smirk and Dagger Games, and Smirk and Dagger is known for making games that are cutthroat, and this game is no exception, because in this game, someone has murdered. Who's the guy who got murdered? Oh, someone died. Some old man died, okay? And one of you did it. In fact, this game has one loser, and everyone else wins. Think of this game as kind of the final act in an Agatha Christie play, or one of those times where, you know, the detective sits everyone down and looks at each person in turn and goes, and now let's take a look at this. And each person's going to be accused, and oh, it couldn't have been me, that type of situation. Here's how the game plays. So each player is a character who may have killed the dead man. Maybe it was his business partner. Maybe it was the butler. Maybe it was his spouse. Maybe it was the prodigal child. Maybe it was the illegitimate heir. Or maybe it was the affair. Each of these people, let's say it's the butler, because we all know the butler did it. So anyway, each of these people is going to be immune to some specific types of evidence. Like the butler's immune to revenge because, you know, he paid the guy good enough. He's immune to business meeting because he would never be allowed to go to one. And he's immune to the window because he's the guy who has to clean up after that. Now, one person in this game is going to be the loser. And that person, so maybe once you're going to have evidence that's going to be suggested against you. But that evidence doesn't actually hurt you until it becomes hard evidence against you. And if you have one of each type against you, so maybe it was for money, in the garden, and he did it with the iron. Once you have all three of those in hard evidence, one of each type, you are the loser. Or if you have 5 different types of evidence, doesn't matter which pile they come from in hard evidence, you're also the loser. So each round of the game, one player is going to be the inspector. Now each player is going to get 3 investigation cards. And these investigation cards are going to show 1, 2, or all 3 of the different types of evidence. Each player is also going to be getting suspicion cards. They're going to get one that says implicate right to the right to the right. You have left, you have a cross, and then you have, each person has J'accuse card. So what's going to happen is you're going to deal out 1 opportunity, 1 motive, and 1 weapon, and they're going to go in front of 3 players that are clockwise from the inspector. All right, then the inspector is going to secretly play one of their investigation cards. We don't know which one, so for example, this one here is the motive. Then all the players are going to talk together, and they're going to discuss which cards they're going to play, and they're going to play a card in front of them. So they might play the right, to the right, across, or left. We then reveal all the cards. If one card has more than any other, that's the card that happens. If there's a tie, then it automatically becomes J'accuse. After players are done playing a card, they will not be able to play it again until they've played 3 of their 4 cards, in which case they get the cards back into their hand. Now, after all the cards have been played, we decide what happens. We show this, and this is the only one it's dealt with. So if it says to the right, it would go to the right one character. If it says to the left, it would go to the left. If it says across, it would go to the person directly across from you, which could be multiple people in an odd player game. And if it says J'accuse and you have it, boom, it becomes hard evidence against you, unless for some reason you happen to be immune against that type. So in this one, the only one that's being dealt with is money. But, you know, this one here would be opportunity and the weapon. This one's just opportunity. And again, sometimes it's all 3. Once that happens, any piece of evidence that has become hard evidence will be replaced, again in a clockwise order, and then the next person becomes inspector, and we keep going. Once you've played all 3 of your investigation cards, you will then get 3 more, and the game will continue until one person has been the person who done it. Now I have to take this review with a very, 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 very strong suggestion that your liking of this game depends on the group you play with. Now, that's the case for many games, but in this case, exceptionally so, because this game requires you to act out the rules. The whole, well, I never, or, I couldn't have been me, or the butler just being, you have to get into these roles because the gameplay itself is merely mediocre. But that mediocre gameplay, with all the different cards and the quotes in the cards and just, this typical situation that you see in one of these whodunit plays, really allows players to expand, and say, well, I would never be the one for resentment. I actually kind of secretly admired him. You did not. There's just this accusing, oh, sir, I never would have expected it was you, madam. That kind of thing. And when you play with that type of group, it's going to be fun. The game is not long. And honestly, there's some discussion over, let's all pass the card left, but you don't know what the cards you're passing left or right are. Because of that inspector card, it could be all three, it could be something, and sometimes you're forced to play a third one. I played a game where I'm as an inspector, I put the card down knowing full well that the piece of evidence the thing was on me. And please don't accuse me this round. People are like, well, Tom wouldn't play a card that hurts himself, so should we play J'accuse now, or should we just pass the cards to the left? No, let's play J'accuse. And since ties turn into J'accuse, then there's going to be a lot more of that accusation than you think. So the game doesn't last long. It can go to a fairly large group of people, but you got to get into it. And if you're one of those people who goes, I don't think I'm going to go get into it, then you will not like the game. Because the game itself, honestly, is not strong enough to carry itself without that role-playing. At the same time, though, I do like it because I don't mind getting into that mindset. And the gameplay itself is a cool framework to put role-playing games. This isn't like a garbage game. I'm not trying to say that. I'm not saying that this game is a bad game. No, but this game is just one leg. The other leg is role-playing, and you need both for it to work together. The artwork is good. It's really fun to say, well, I'm sorry, but, and or you, mistress. That sort of fun back and forth things. I don't know that you want to play it multiple times in a row, but I could see after a dinner party or something, pulling this out and everyone getting into it and having a blast. So if you're one of those people who likes that story, who likes that detective type thing, and you want a game framework to put on this on top of, I think you'll really enjoy this, as I did, J'accuse. Dice Tower Judgment, guilty! Oh, I'm sorry. With role-playing, approved!
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door!